Aloha and welcome back, everyone. This for Java. This is Friday, August 11th, 2023. First, I would like to thank everybody for your kind words and your prayers for the folks in Maui. They've got a tough road ahead and quite a few challenges, and I'm blown away by the support. I just really, really appreciate you all so much. So thank you for that. With that, let's go into the markets. We are watching brisk rise basically with the MMRI still. And yesterday was actually relatively flat, chopped around a bit. We got the core price inflation number, and it didn't affect the markets in a huge way like some people thought that it could. Today, we are expecting the producer price inflation, and that will be at 8:30 prior to market open. But the reason these are important is because they affect the Federal Reserve's decision whether they will hike again or not. My personal opinion is that they will be hiking in September, probably quarter point. I think they've got to hike one more time this year. We'll see. But I'm interested to know what you think. Do you think they will hike one more time this year or put us back on a permanent pause or actually pivot, which would mean lowering the rates? I'm interested to know. If you don't mind, leave that in the comments. So we will be watching not just regular markets, the commodities. Oil's still going up. It's got a little bit more to run before it has pullback, probably. These are only statistics, not certainties, not financial advice. We're watching the dollar still stronger because if the Federal Reserve hikes, it keeps the currency strong. And so we want to know if the markets can weather these rising yields. We'll keep an eye on the 10-year, of course. So these are two stories, I think. I do want to know what you think, whether they will hike. I actually agree with CNBC, which is not often. But these two stories, the first one is large parts of the economy are going to struggle. Well, yes, that happens in a consumer-led deflationary cycle. So what happens is people don't have the money to spend anymore. They can't spend. And what we're watching is they are buying less food and energy, and those are core needs. So they're necessities, not discretionary income, and we are starting to see that. We do still see a lot of discretionary income, and the data is starting to suggest that people are hitting their home equity with the rise in prices in homes, which is not a good item for the long term for housing. The other story I wanted to bring up that I agree with them with is that we expect the US dollar to remain relatively strong. So the key word is relatively, as we've got all currencies are at a race to devalue themselves because it's how they pump their economies. And we'll see what happens with this. But relatively strong, I agree. We will stay in the dollar for some time. With that, I've got another story that they came out with saying that the UK economy, surprising, was the strongest growth in more than a year. So I would like to ask anybody that is over there, do you see a strong economy for you? Or is this what I think it is, probably a garbage story that's floating out? Because the central banks must stay in lockstep for exactly that same reason about the currencies being balanced against one another. So they're kind of preparing. And if the Federal Reserve does do their hike, I suspect that the Bank of England will need to do their rate hike as well, just to stay on par. Had another story when Moody's downgraded the banks the other day. They are warning the US banks as a wake up call. This story. So, what happened in 2008? They learned from the systemic risk of all the larger banks. And they set up a lot of smaller banks that can basically serve as scapegoats without higher risk or attachment to the larger banks. So now what can happen is they can load them up with all of the risk and the debt and basically shut those without ties to the larger banks. So they're kind of like fall guys, and been looking into this more. Anyone familiar enough with the Pandora Papers or the Pandora Report? I mean, basically, they're doing the same thing with the front companies that lower their risk. So the fires, they are saying the main cause of the fires is climate change. And while I agree we do need to work on our climate and try to be as clean as possible, this is another push towards the green movement. And the problem here is it's all about control again. So these fires had to start somehow, and they also started in multiple areas. In fact, the Big Island got hit with fires also. So I'm not completely buying this story, but as we know, they can't let a good crisis go to waste. So this is all blamed on climate change. And yeah, I have feelings about that. Anyway, sorry if I'm a little too close to that one. So we've got another story here that I wanted to bring up, and it's Disease X. So don't be surprised if you haven't heard of Disease X yet, because it is literally made up. So the World Health Organization has added, quote unquote, Disease X to a short list of priority diseases. So this is a placeholder name for a disease. They're using it to describe a disease that is currently unknown to medical science as a cause of human infections. However, the reason they are doing this is because when they name this disease, and they don't even know, it doesn't even matter, it can be a virus, a bacterium, or a fungus, or something else. It's very vague, but they can increase their funds to support the surveillance of and research into basically more vaccines, more treatments, more mandates coming out from this. It is another play for control because they're looking into something that completely is not there. And while I agree with being prepared, you cannot prepare for something that's not even, they haven't even got it wound down to whether it would be a bacteria virus or what, could be anything. So just want to make you aware of this if you haven't heard of it. And all of this stuff, you can do your own research. I'm not making this up. I don't know anybody, as Greg says, nobody can make this stuff up. It's Disease X. So there you go. Update on our currency wars. We do have the summit for the BRICS banks coming up in August. And so what they're doing lately is they are looking for more local currencies to trade in and basically probably going to peg to gold for value. But what we currently do with the dollar is pegged to a basket of currencies. It's not even pegged to the dollar for prices. So they're looking to do this. And Russia is under heavy sanctions right now. And then the other story that I've got kind of ties in because even with the heavy sanctions, they're studying with their economy that there is no threat to their macro stability, at least within the next 1 or 2 years. And this has an effect because Russia and China are some of the leads, along with India, for this new development bank. And this will be balanced against the Eurozone as well as the US dollar. So just wanted to bring this up. That's all I've got for you for today. So I'm going to wish you all a wonderful day. If you're a trader, I wish you a green trading day. It is the weekend, so I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And just please, until I see you again, stay free, my friends.